Welcome to the winter of 2016 in-service preload. Today we're going over our new image trend delete software that we will be moving to shortly after the new year. Over the past 6 months, a team comprised of personnel from the EMS division, ISP, billing, the planning division, the fire marshal's office, and operations have been developing what is known as the image trend delete platform and the various run forms that we will use to fill out both fire and EMS reports. Our goal was to create a system that was user-friendly while seamlessly collecting the necessary data our department requires. This will serve as a brief overview of the software and its layout. The goal is not to become fully versed and have the ability to work fluently with the software, but to familiarize yourself with its format and some of the changes that have occurred. Not every detail is explained in the video, and you may have more questions than you did before watching, which is great. Feel free to bring them to in-service, where we will go over the software in much greater detail, and we will be happy to answer any questions. So let's get started. Our new image trend delete software is entirely web-based. There will be 2 new icons that you are going to see. These are links to the image trend delete website where you will do your PCR and fire reporting documentation. The first one is Elite Field. This is the blue icon that you see right here. As we said, this new Elite Field will be web-based as opposed to software-based, but you will not need a permanent internet connection when using the blue Elite Field website. This will be replacing what we currently call Field Bridge and will be used for all documentation done electronically on PCRs out in the field. The second icon is Elite Desktop. This is the red icon that you see here. This is the site that will be used to complete or start PCRs as well as complete fire reports from any desktop within the station. This will be replacing what is currently called Rescue Bridge. This site is also web-based but requires a constant internet connection to run, which is why we will only be using it within the station. Both Elite Field and Elite Desktop reports are nearly identical in layout and function. This applies to both fire and EMS reports, which is a significant upgrade from our current system. That will allow providers to seamlessly switch between one platform to the other. As always, there will be a link to the websites on the intranet homepage. Clicking on the blue Elite Field icon on your desktop will bring you to the page seen here. Notice this page has a blue border around the sign-in box as well as a small Elite logo in the top center. This is the easiest way for you to identify that you're getting ready to log into the Elite Field website. Remember that when you're in the field, you should be using the Elite Field login, so you should expect to see this page with the blue border when you're logging in. Clicking on the red Elite Desktop icon on your computer will bring you to the login screen that you see here. Notice this login screen has a yellow border around the sign-in box and a much larger logo in the top left-hand part of the page. This is the login screen that you should expect when logging in from any of the station computers. So just remember, if you see this blue border around the sign-in page, that means you're getting ready to log into Elite Field. This page does not require a constant internet connection, which is why you're going to be using it in the field. Whereas if you see the yellow border, that's going to be the Elite Desktop, and that will require a constant internet connection. If tried to use in the field, it will not work properly. Alright, so let's go ahead and log into Elite Field. We're going to go back to our blue screen. You're going to type in your username and password that you've been provided. And we'll click the sign in button. If you have the availability to log into more than one agency, you'll be asked to do so and then click continue. Most providers won't have that option. So this is the home screen you'll see when you log in. You have a quick search up here to find any incidents that you may have open, an organizer to view all or none, a post option delete, the ability to create a new incident with this button here. If you come over here to the left, you have your crew options. This is where when you come in the morning, you'll set the crew members for the day. You'll set their level and the role that they will be primarily playing for the day. And you can add an additional crew member. And their role as well. And then click the OK button. Then you'll come down to the unit and shift section. Clicking the picture of the ambulance will open up this new field. The unit number to select is the 5-digit county ID number that's assigned to each vehicle. This is a new requirement mandated by the state and federal government for us to record each day. So you'll select that unit number and then you'll come to your call sign. Both of these boxes are quick searches, so if you don't want to scroll through the entire list, you can type in the unit that you're on. It'll shorten the field for you. Once you click OK, it'll assign that unit for the shift. Clicking this calendar will open up another field for you to choose your shift for the day. You click OK. If you recognize that any of these are wrong or they change throughout the shift, all you have to do is go back to them, click the X button, locate your new vehicle or unit number, and then click OK. Let's move to the bottom of the page. On the left hand side, you'll see you have an inbox here. That allows you to send and receive messages within the system to other users. You have a settings option which will bring up a sync resources tab. If you click that, it'll sync the system just like you would in FieldBridge currently. So if you change your password or something like that throughout the day, just realize you're going to have to sync it at some point while you're connected to the internet to update to the most current system. The About tab just brings up an information screen, and then as well as your logout button down here. Coming to the right hand side of the screen, you'll see you have several different views here. Because we don't have any incidents in the list right now, it's not changing anything, but if we did have some, this would change how they were displayed, and you can choose whichever is most convenient for you for the shift. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a new incident and check out the run form. You can click anywhere in this bar up here to open up a new PCR. This will be the home screen that you see each time you open up a new PCR. Across the top, you see there's a Save button, a Post button, Print to print the report for the hospital, a CAD button to pull CAD data, an EKG button to import EKGs and other vitals, a Transfer button, and the Close button. On the right hand side of the page, you'll see a Times tab that will open up all the times from your incident, very much like you see it currently. A Mileage tablet where you enter your mileage for the transport. A Timeline which will open up a chronological timeline of all the data entered into the PCR. And a Worksheet button that would open up any custom worksheets that we've created. Currently, the only one entered is a stroke assessment worksheet for the new VAN stroke scale that the organization is going to be moving to. If we move to the right hand side of the page and click the Power Tools button, it'll bring up all the power tools that were previously listed. You can see in the new Elite system we have power tools for activities, airway, assessment, blood, cardiac, GCS, medications, RSI, and if you click this All button, we'll add one more, which is vitals. At in-service, we'll go more in-depth with several of the power tools, but for now, let's move on. If you click the All button at the bottom right-hand corner, it'll minimize the power tools again. Let's move to the left-hand side of the page. Each of the colored tabs here are called sections. If you click any one of them, they'll open up more subsections or panels. Anytime you click on a new panel, it'll open up new data fields for you to enter in the main area of the page. Let's go ahead and move back to the disposition section at the top. As with our current image trend, your disposition drives many of the data requirements for the rest of the incident. If you look at the list, many of them have been revised, added, or removed to hopefully make the list a little bit easier for you when you're deciding on which type of call to pick based on the incident that you're running. Let's go ahead and pick one of the more common dispositions, which is treated, transported, BLS by this unit. Once we click, you'll notice that several things happened. One is many of the sections on the left-hand side turned red, as well as the tabs on the right-hand side and the validation score at the bottom of the screen lowered. This is to let you know, based on the selection you made, that data requirements somewhere in the PCR have changed. Anywhere that is currently red has a field that has data that is still required to be filled in. Clicking any of the red will bring up more detail as to which field that may be. So let's say you get to a point in your PCR where you see red and know you need to enter more data, but you're not sure where that is. All you have to do is go to the bottom of the page here and click the validation tool and scroll through the list. All of the listed options are somewhere in the PCR that requires more data. When you find the area that you're looking to enter data in, all you have to do is click the arrow button and it'll bring you directly to that point in the PCR. If you open up any of the sections and see a red exclamation point on the left-hand side of that panel, that tells you that somewhere inside of that panel there's data that needs to be entered. As you start to fill in more information, you'll notice your validation number at the bottom changes. Each time a new data point is entered and a data requirement is met, the validation number will change based on the number of points that question was worth. Eventually, the goal is to achieve 100% before the PCR is complete. You have two ways to enter data into many of the fields. The first one is clicking the drop-down box like we did earlier, but you'll notice some of the fields have extensive lists that it's hard to scroll through. If this is the case, you can click the Tab button here, which will open up a list on the left-hand side that can be searched using the keyboard. As you type, you'll notice the list is narrowed, but will only narrow based on the spelling you enter. It does not do closest spelling, only exact, so if you're off by any single letter, you will not see the option that you're looking for. When you select it, it'll automatically make the change into the field. Any of the fields that have 6 or less options automatically revert to a button style option like you see here. One of the significant changes that has occurred with the new system is how we report pertinent negatives or not options. If there's a field that you have selected that you want to enter a pertinent negative in or not option, you would go to the right hand side of the field and click this circle with the subtraction button. That'll bring up all of your negative options for that question. So you can see for medical surgical history you have the option of none reported, refused, unable to complete, or unresponsive. Clicking any one of those will satisfy the requirement for that field. One other change that has occurred is the format in which we enter fields that can have multiple selected options, such as allergies, medical history, and medications. Anytime you see a square in any of the fields like this, that means you're going to be entering in data into what's called a grid. If we go over to activities, you'll see that many of the activities in the system are set up as grids. Let's go ahead and enter a set of vital signs as an example. So when you click on vital signs, it'll give you an option to choose from. We're going to click vital signs. If you click the clock button as you see here in any of the fields throughout the form, it'll automatically input the current date and time. You'll also see that some of the fields are pre-selected for you. This is something that we've done to try to make it easier on the providers when in the field. If this is not the option that you currently want to select, all you have to do is select the other option. But if not, you can just leave it the way it is. You'll go through this grid field and enter in all the options as you see necessary, obviously hitting the required data fields when you encounter them. When you enter in all the fields that you want, click the OK button, and that entry will be made into the grid. Anytime you want to add a new option to the grid, all you have to do is click the Add button again, choose the option that you want, hit all your required fields as well as any extras, hit OK, and that'll be entered into the grid. You can do this for as many as you need throughout the incident. While developing the new Elite system, we tried to make several changes that would make it easier on the providers when entering data out in the field. One of the goals we had was to try to reduce scrolling as much as possible within the PCR when entering in data. We did this by using visibility rules. Visibility rules allow us to control what fields are shown at any given time based on the input that you've already entered into the PCR. We can demonstrate just one example of this by going over to the patient history section on the left-hand side of the page. If we look at the alcohol/drug use indicators field, you can see the next option is the patient's physician's grid. But if we select alcohol containers at scene, it opens up a new field for us to free text to describe any of the paraphernalia that we witnessed. If this option was not selected, you don't have to see the field and thereby scrolling past it. If there was nothing at the scene, all you would do is click your pertinent negative box, no apparent alcohol and drug use, and now you wouldn't even know that field was there unless you needed it. Again, we did this throughout much of the PCR to help reduce the scrolling that the provider has to do when they're out in the field. One of the other significant changes that were made with the implementation of Elite is the creation of the MIVIT section on the left-hand side. One of the major feedbacks that we got from providers in the field is that they were reluctant to do an ePCR as opposed to a paper MIVIT on most calls because they knew when they got to the hospital that they had one piece of paper with all the information they needed to turn the patient over and give a verbal report. What we did was compare our MIVIT form to all the fields in the PCR and moved all of the required fields that are on a MIVIT into this one section. This means if you fill out all of the required fields in the MIVIT section and its accompanying panels, you would have all the same information that you would on a paper PCR. So if we add a first and last name into the demographics panel of the MIVIT section, and go over to patient info, you will see those fields transferred. Remember, everything we've done up until this point has been on Elite Field, which means we did it out on a tablet while we were on an actual call. Let's assume we've entered in all the information we wanted, and now we want to transfer the call to a desktop computer at the station using Elite Desktop and complete the PCR. As always, you want to make sure you download CAD data before you transfer anything. So when you click your CAD button at the top of the screen, it'll load your list of CAD data that you can pull for this report. Make sure you select the correct call and unit number, and click the button on the right hand side to download the CAD data. Once the screen finishes loading, verify that CAD data has been imported. You can do this by clicking on any of the tabs that would normally have imported information. So you can see the complaint reported by dispatch has already been filled in for you, which means you know the CAD pulled correctly. Once you've done this, you can hit the transfer button at the top of the page. Then select Upload Transfer. Select the agency that you're transferring to, which in this case it'll be still your current agency. Transfer to a unit. Select your unit. Then you can select Yes, Transfer, and Remove. When it's done, it will read Upload Complete. You will now go back to the incident list. So now let's assume you're back at the station and you're ready to log into Elite Desktop to finish the PCR. Then you'll go to your Elite Desktop login, and you know you're on your Elite Desktop login again because you have the yellow border around the sign-in box. Input your username and password and sign in. Accept your disclaimer. And now you're in Elite Desktop. You'll notice your layout is a little bit different. To get to your incidents, you'll go to the Incidents tab at the top of the page. If you want to create a new EMS incident, you'll click here. If you want to create a new incident using CAD data, you'll come here. Create a new fire run here. And to create a fire run from CAD data, you'll select here. Notice that now when you're in Elite Desktop, your fire and PCR reporting can be accessed from one login. This is convenient for not having to switch between platforms to go from a PCR to a fire report. So now let's get back to the PCR that we were trying to complete from earlier. To get back to that PCR, you're going to create a new EMS incident from not using CAD. Then you're going to go to Transfers again at the top of the page, and this time we're going to go to Download Transfer. You would select your unit or call sign. In this case, we were Engine 5. And there's the call. You can click the download button on the right hand side here. Now that the download is complete, you can verify this is the correct call. You can see everything else is the same, so we're in the right PCR. Now you would complete the PCR, click the Save button, and you're done. Posting and locking is going to be working a little bit differently in Elite, but we'll go over this at in-service. So as we discussed earlier in the video, the layout between fire and EMS reporting now is nearly identical. So everything we've discussed on the PCR side is also going to apply on the fire side. But let's go ahead and open a fire report and take a look. So we'll hit the Close button on the PCR, make sure it's saved first. Then you go back to your Incidents tab, and you'll create New Fire from CAD. Then you'll choose the call that you're looking to download, and you'll click the button on the right hand side here. As with the current rescue bridge, many fields will be pre-populated with data based on the CAD data that you pulled in. On the current rescue bridge, we have little to no control how the run form is laid out. But in Elite, as we did with the PCR, Lieutenant Yates and the Planning Division have spent a significant amount of time editing the layout of the fire run form to make it have a much more logical flow. If you come to the left-hand side of the page and click on Actions Taken/Narrative, you'll see you can fill out the primary narrative here. To add an additional narrative, come to the section on the left-hand side called Additional Narratives. From there, you can click the Add button and add any additional narratives that are needed. Once you click out of the box, it will automatically save. You'll also notice that the primary narrative is displayed at the top of the page for you to view while you're typing your additional narrative. Another change to the fire run form is the Specialty Team Response section. If you come to the left-hand side and click on that section, you'll notice there's a panel for each of the corresponding teams with additional fields to fill out for when these teams run their specialty calls. Another new section is the CFEMS Operations section. If you come to the left-hand side and click on it, it'll open up two different panels: CFEMS Equipment Used, CFEMS Suppression Tactics. If any equipment was used on a call, you can document it here. And if there was any suppression tactics that were applied, you can document them here. And the last section that has been added is for the Reviewer Only section on the left-hand side. If you'll click that, you'll see it's an area for someone that's coming in to review the report to have access to different areas of the call without having to click through the various sections and panels during their review. So in conclusion, the purpose of this video is not to make you an expert with Elite, but just to familiarize yourself with it so that when you arrive at in-service, it's not the first time you're reviewing the software. As you can see, the format is different, but our fundamental goal has not changed. We are working to make red boxes blue, collect all pertinent required information, perform the best documentation possible, and all while providing outstanding care to the patient or the citizens. Any questions that you may have, please bring them to in-service and we'll be happy to answer them. Also, a special thanks to Brittany Wynn from ISP for leading this project and being the subject matter expert for all things Elite. She has put an enormous amount of time into the project, and our success would not have been possible without her. Thanks for watching.